Anybody wanting to review these can see Susie, raise your hand. See her if you want her to email you a copy of the minutes. Also, Sue Newby, our treasurer, is out today. So I'm doing her report as well. And the balance in the account, checking account, is $11,472.80. Sue is happy to, those books are open. Anybody who would like to look at them or review them or.
That includes, I think that includes the funds that are going in for the show.
That is correct. It does include the funds for the spring show. So, but if you want to review that further, just give Sue a call or email her. She should be on our website. Membership report?
Yeah, we have 94 members.
94 members. So we are rebuilding, in a rebuilding phase, and we're super excited. We're starting to see, we had a surge at first, we're starting to see a lull, but if you have artist friends, if you're in art classes or in any kind of instructional programs and you see other artists there, invite them to join us. They're within the 25-mile radius.
Yeah, you can fudge a little bit.
No, we're not fudging, we're on the rules. And, but we would love to have and grow this membership in order to support some of these large festivals that we like to do, like we're gonna be talking about in a minute. Janet, I'm gonna turn it over to you to do your report. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Hello, everybody. For my height, I'm 5'1", maybe. No, the flowers, I couldn't see anybody on this side. I think I know almost everybody here. And there's more coming in the door. I'm Janet Sanders anyway, the show chairman. And Nikki, where's Nikki?
There she is.
There's Nikki. I am so excited to have Nikki as, she was just gonna assist me, but I made her co-chairman because she has been awesome in helping out. Yes. So we're gonna trade back and forth information on what we've been doing. We're really excited about this one. This is a joint venture with the Chamber of Commerce of Mountain Brook City. So they're handling all the publicity, they're working with all the vendors, all the businesses here. They had their Chamber of Commerce meeting this morning, and we are more visible here. Since the Piggly Wiggly, that's on the backside, that was near our field there. For those of you who haven't been to the show, the field is back by the school. It's behind the new Piggly Wiggly. But since that was built, it's kind of obliterated the view back there. It killed the last show we had there. It should have, in our minds, it should have made it better.
I thought it was gonna be better, yeah.
And you just couldn't see it, and now we're right dead center in the city of Mountain Brook. And this is the village, for those who don't live in Mountain Brook, this is the village where everybody comes to eat. It's a family type of business. This is like living in Mayberry. The kids are all over, young couples sitting by the fountain, holding hands. It's just a wonderful place to live and do business and get your family and friends to come visit because they can spend the entire day here. There are actually gift shops for the women and the kids, and food everywhere. I think at one time, I haven't recounted, but I think there were 22 places to eat within this 3-block radius. Wow. This is amazing. So, go ahead.
And one thing about this place too that we were talking about yesterday, because yesterday we got together and we assigned all the places, and we really were talking about it. We're like I was trying to decide about where I wanted to be, and I was like, there's really no bad places for the show, really, and we don't know exactly how it's going to be, but all of the places are good places. All the tent spots are great places, and I think, in this room, everybody's going to be in this room, so people are going to walk all over the room. There's no place that's like invisible or, so, yeah, I chose my space, but if somebody's really unhappy with their tent space, just let me know and I'll swap it with you. I'll redraw the thing, it's fine, I can commit to that because I'm the one who is drawing it and putting it on the website, so If somebody's really unhappy with their spot, just let me know.
The
I'll
only,
swap.
the only caveat we had to that is anybody who had work under glass, and I knew pretty much who it was under glass, because glass will get, you don't want the sun hitting it in the
Right.
morning and getting dew. So anybody who is outside is right there, facing the drugstore and the flower shop, which should be really busy on a Saturday. So
That
that's,
is a bit
that's
shady.
very, very shady over there. So we've got Michael Davis, Cicely Lowe. You've got things under glass?
Watercolor.
We might have to switch you with,
Where is this being shown from?
Me, over here. Are you ready for these to
so
be
we might,
highlighted?
we got you up front though.
I'll take it.
You'll take the up front rather than the shade?
I'll get an umbrella.
Okay. Because we had one more space back here, and Linda Goldstein's right there. So if, you know, we could, so I thought you were all oil, and normally when you filled it out, you said something of that. But
Mostly oil.
mostly oil, so let us know, and then we'll swap you
So
for
put the
Linda.
watercolor in the back under the tent.
Places here with trees and.
Yeah, but
But not as much shade.
But not as much shade, this is definitely a shady spot.
How many feet do we have, Janet?
Number 4.
Normal spot, I mean, well, 12, we haven't figured it out because we just, what happened is we figured out the field for the maximum. And we have 22 tents outside, but 2 of those tents are shared, so we have more artists than we have tents. So we were able to spread out the tents a little more. So I can't say how many feet are between them, a couple feet between each tent.
Probably similar, probably like 12. It's probably like you have a 12-foot
Yeah,
space.
yeah.
So, but there may be a little more or less.
I wanted to know if, even though we're in the village, and it's real busy, and there's food everywhere, but if you decide to leave for lunch or get something for lunch, whoever's picking you up lunch may sit for half an hour waiting for something. Do you want us to do a Zoe's, group order, like we've done in the past? They have salad, we could keep it down to the fruit and, chicken salad, and whatever they've got, we could keep it down to 4 things, so we keep the order easy, but then we can get a volunteer to go pick,
The
it
cost
was always
would be
favorite.
around what, $9 or $10?
Haven't checked, things have gone up so much since COVID, I have to say, but it's usually around $12. And I think that we'd be able to just charge it to the club and then everybody would reimburse us, that's how we've done it before. So it works out really well. I'll just send out an email and see, because the volunteers who come might want it too. Again, to go and figure, I'm just gonna go down to Zoe's and pick it up myself, you don't have time to do that, because it'll be busy. One time we had the band who broke for lunch and had to wait in line for 45 minutes. So we're hoping that the village is gonna be that busy again. You're gonna be handling all your own sales. There's confusion between the holiday shows, which were inside, and the tent shows that were outside. Now we've got a combination thereof. You're all gonna handle inside and out your own sales. So you have to be near your inside, you have to be near your panels to write up your sales and talk up your work. If you don't have a credit machine or credit, whatever those things are, the squares, the desk is gonna be right there and down this hall, and we'll run any credit sales through there, but you've gotta write up the sales slip with your name on it to make sure you get paid, because we reimburse you, in a few days, probably a week or 2, because Sue's gotta do all that. I have to say, we'll have a little note in everybody's packet that you pick up before the start, is that you absolutely have to charge for sales tax. And we had someone in the past say, oh, you don't have to do that, to one of the customers. So then the customer went to the next space, and said, wait a minute, she's not charging. And you know, the under the table sort of sales, to try and avoid, the customer's paying it anyway, so just charge them the 9% that they need to, because we could lose, if that word got out, whoever complains to somebody, or they're talking to somebody, we could get our business licenses pulled, and that is,
Yeah, if they think they're not paying the license,
the sales tax, yes, definitely.
Is it okay if we say the taxes included in the price?
I would put that on the sales slip that you're writing, or tell them that. Some artists do, but then if it's $100 painting, it's $109. It's kind of odd. It's nice to have it at $100, but you can do it that way. But don't tell the customer that, oh, they don't have to pay
Oh,
that.
no, no.
Because some of them will do that, but our business license is one of the best reasons to have a membership in this club. We carry all the business licenses for whatever city, state, county we're in. And it's a value for membership, so please do not fudge on that. It's 9%, and
Is it not 9.5%?
that's where you live, not where we live. And we'll have that on the information sheet you get. You also will each get 3 envelopes that you write out at the end of the show. Almost all of you have been there before. You write out the checks. You have to have, it's gotta be check, no cash. Years ago, when we had the county revenue people sitting there for hours in their 3-piece suits, looking really serious, was scary. That's because they thought we were gonna accept cash. And once they said, what? I said, we can just demand that all the artists just pay by check. They said, really? Then we don't have to send 2 people on overtime on a Saturday. With our
Is there
check.
anybody who doesn't have a checkbook? Just to make sure.
Okay.
Okay, we're safe.
Parking.
You have a question?
Before we leave the taxing, didn't we used to have to, pay a percentage to be able to use Club Charge?
Yes.
Don't we
it's-
need to do
Right,
that?
you're right, and maybe that's what you were talking about in your text.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about that, there is a slight,
It was
3 or
more-
4% in order to, because the bank charges
Yeah.
for anything that goes through our desk. You're
Okay.
right, you're right,
So
so you
it
should
would
have
be
texted me
9.
back and said, what about that?
Well,
Yeah.
so it
Correct me.
should be 9% plus.
No, that's
That's
Oh.
just that's just gonna come out of
your reimbursement
Yeah.
check.
Okay,
so that's something that you would pay. You wouldn't want the customer to have to pay
Okay.
for the credit card processing fees.
That would be
Yeah.
tough to do
Yeah.
that, I don't know
Yeah.
how you do that, yeah, that's just one of the advantages to having your own Venmo, I
yeah,
guess.
Yeah.
I haven't even
Yeah.
gone there,
I
I'm
haven't
too
either.
old.
So, okay, so Venmo, you have to have, the person paying also has to have an account, but it's basically like they can just transfer money from their checking account to your checking account, so for free.
We need
So
to have a
there's no
whole,
processing.
we need to have a whole meeting on
Yeah.
Venmo and there's.
Although if you have a business account, it isn't free.
Oh, yeah, that's
Ah.
right, yeah, so that's for your personal account, it's free, so business account apparently is not free.
We need a whole new
Yeah.
Or if
check.
they pay with a credit card, or
Since we're talking about Venmo.
if they pay with a credit card, then you have to pay for the credit card processing.
Yes.
The fees.
As I said, we
That's
almost need a
that's a
whole new
Venmo
business
code.
meeting on this because I don't know how to do that little
Right.
square.
Yeah, you have it. If you have Venmo, there's a code on there that somebody can pay. They can
And I've seen this at
scan
several
that
art
and then
shows.
pay
Artists
you.
will have, you can make it as big as you want it, and if your customer says, oh, I want something, and then you say, do you do Venmo? And they say, yes, I do, and you say, well, just hover your phone over this, y'all wanna hover and send me some money? No. And then it'll just connect with me directly, and then,
On your phone.
but on my separate sales slip, you write up what the sale is and have your name on the sales slip and what the item is and add the tax, so you get a grand total of $107, let's say. So you charge the person, you request it, or they just immediately can just pay you $107.
It goes from their account to your account?
Yep,
Yeah.
immediately.
If it's not a business account, which mine isn't right now, because I don't do that many sales or many shows, it's just up to me to then know that I've received that tax, and then I'll pay it back to this entities at the end of the day. It's
Right.
pretty easy.
You write that check just like you would if you had
I'll
collected
write
it.
a hard check, yeah, hard check. And then over here, it says, do you use a credit or debit card? I take these, and that's with my little square. And the little square gizmo, you get one that fits your type of phone, if you have an iPhone or an Android, and then you can run it right there. And then what was the other thing about it? And you do pay a little percentage. I think it's 2% plus 10 cents a
You
transaction.
get that at your local bank?
And that's for credit card.
That's for credit or debit cards that have any of these symbols on the back of them, and it costs $10. So that's a $10 fee, which is not bad.
The square.
You go online,
We gotta go online.
and if they take, you may need to, it took a few days to get to me. Walmart has it, yay, has the square. It's called Square.
Square Walls, well, at least they used to, they said they would send you like a free card reader, your first card reader.
They're not free. Well, maybe, that was my second one, so it
Oh,
wasn't
yeah, the
free.
second, yeah, the first one is. Or sometimes
Well, the
they
old
stop
one went with
working.
an old phone. My new iPhone has that little squared off jack, so I have to have a new stuff.
Before we move on, just so I get this right, the 3% charge is only for artists who don't do their own, but send it over to the
Correct.
hospitality booth.
Never was saying that, that 3% charge, on top of sales is only for those who need the club's credit card reader to put through a sale. And that just comes out of the reimbursement check that you get for the sales. So, we don't have as much going through as we used to. We used to have hundreds and hundreds of much, but now it's down to a small amount. But it's still a value because there's printed receipts. We have a good copy of that, right away. So,
How do we know that if you give the client a sales ticket that they're coming in to pay it?
don't let them leave with your art.
Okay.
So basically,
Fill it out.
I would interject, cause I had this question when I first came, is you're at your booth, you have someone who wants to buy the art, you write it up, a slip, they took it to the
Hospitality, yeah.
they marked it paid, or did something, maybe there were 2 receipts?
You have to
Yeah,
really,
you
you
used to
really
be.
And
should
they
have
come
3
back
receipts.
showing they
You should
approved
have
what they
Oh.
paid. That's what we did before, and
You
then
should
they
have-
picked up the art.
You should have
Yeah.
3 receipts, one for yourself to
Yeah.
keep.
It should be marked as paid, and they should have a credit card processing, like, the receipt
Yeah.
to show that.
And they
paid
come
the
back
credit
to
card.
you and show that they
And they bring
paid,
the receipt
and then you
back,
can give
and
them
then
the
you-
art.
yeah.
That's right, you do not have to have 2 receipts, you just need, 3 receipts, you need 2, one for the customer and one for yourself.
Right, cause you have those 3 slip things, so one goes to the club, one goes to the customer, one goes to you.
Trying to, because we've switched back and forth between.
That's how
It'd be
it's
better,
done.
it'd be better that, we really need a 3rd receipt to keep at the desk. To make sure we put everything through properly, and that we assign you,
And make sure you write your name on the slip.
it's amazing how many people do not.
Paid or handwritten paid? Because anybody can write paid on it.
Well, but there also would be the actual receipt from the credit card machine, and so
Oh,
that's what we're
okay.
talking about there.
And,
Yeah, so that, it
right,
would help you know that
Okay.
it's
that they,
really paid.
that's right, that they've actually, I used to be a rep for a gift company, from the gift mart, and I travel all around, and I learned all these ways from my customers, how their customers were cheating and stealing. It's like, where are they coming up with this stuff? No,
No.
Not at this show.
Will you put that information in an email or newsletter?
Yes.
So we actually are working on we're gonna email it out too, but I've almost completed, a web page that will have all the information on it, and so, yeah, I'm just have to
Yeah,
finalize
and
the
it's,
details,
yeah,
so, yeah,
yeah, and there's an information page that goes in each packet.
that's right, yeah. But for, yeah,
Inside, I should talk about inside here.
yeah, so
Okay.
pull up the inside.
There's inside. What I've done, the front hall here, I'm highlighting, especially, they're not here today, Kat Pillitary and Carrie Baker and Carolyn, some founding members of the club.
Yeah.
Because we missed last year, no one noticed that it was our 40th birthday last year. So this year, we wanna really play it up, how old we are and how established in the community. So, the first one in the door is gonna be Carrie Baker, our founding member and first president. Then Carolyn Mitchell, Kat Pillitary, I've got Toby Klein, who is another member. At the very front, on the street, Ron Lewis, and Pat Carroll. I've got someone who just joined the show just at the last minute is Sue Taylor White, who's a member for how long?
I don't know.
See, but that's really going on, it goes way back when my kids were little.
Let's put it this way, nobody's here that was there that I saw.
Okay, so if you remember, like, I can put, remember since, I'm trying to put it on the
I
sign.
wish I had a list. I can't remember the names of those people that I loved, and they're
But we won't know
gone.
them anyway. But if we, on your sign, I wanna put, members since the early nineties, members since the early eighties.
It was in the eighties when I joined.
Okay, so we'll have a sign. So you are right back, no, actually right there. So we'll put a sign on your name sign. We'll put that, to honor all the members who've been, making this club what it is through all the decades that we've been alive.
So the plan is for these maps to have them on the website. Now for this one,
In this room.
we may not know exactly how it's gonna be until we're actually setting it up. So hopefully we'll have time to redraw it and have it up there, but
It depends on if there's tippy when we put them up and we gotta
Right.
support them
so
somehow.
sometimes we may need to do some last minute adjustments with that, and we'll send out to all the artists so that they know their letter and
Yeah.
it'll be marked, but we might not have something for the public, but I feel like the public could come in here and see kind of who's here, and we'll have it maybe in the list or something on
Right,
the
ready to
website.
come in the door.
Yeah.
What I've done, and I could have had X's all over, like we've had the X's where they self-standing, the 4 screens. But I was concerned about that area there, and maybe that area, some of the areas, depending on if it's a cloudy day, having more light.
Oh, yeah.
And so everything is coming off a wall. So I've got some coming here, here, and a whole line coming here and there. So we can run electric lines and clips, what do you call them?
The clamp
Shop
lights.
lights. Anything, or you can put a little round table in front of your booth, I'll call it, and put a table lamp there, which is what I might do.
Rick, you had a question?
Yeah, are we supposed to provide the white and black covers that go over the screens?
If possible, I've got a huge tub left over from past shows. And I've got a bunch of it, but I don't know how, I haven't laid it out. I would almost have to do it that day and lay it out. For those of you who haven't been in the show before, if you have just a plain screen, it looks pretty tacky. Outdoors, it's okay, but in an inside setting like this, it would be nice to have it look as much like a gallery setup as possible. And so he's talking about put some kind of fabric, any kind of fabric, not flowery fabric, but a plain white, gray, beige fabric, or black.
I have 2 white ones that I can use.
So felt is cheap, really cheap. I've had people use sheets, but you gotta get the holes through for the.
I use a tablecloth.
Okay, so,
Tablecloth
but-
with little Velcro things sewed on the side, so it like can strap around it, and then I safety pin it.
And those are available?
I've got 2 of those
Two
available,
of those, so, okay.
so sorry, just 2.
So
How much square space are we going to have to hang in here?
4 panels each.
And the
Full,
panels are,
3 foot wide by 6 foot tall. Now, you've got your own. If you wanted to bring your own,
oh, that's great.
then we can.
I would love to do that.
Yeah,
And I have extra ones if anybody else needs any.
okay.
And these are,
I might, because
they're good frames.
Vicki Denneberg is loaning us hers, but she's using it this weekend, and getting them is gonna be a hassle, so I might need more than I already have assigned. So to have extra screens would be a big help for us. I just was emailing back and forth, it's time, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, that's okay,
Let's
okay.
do the parking stuff very quickly.
Okay, I was listening to the conversation last night.
Oh, no.
Hey,
One
Jen,
of the cops was saying it was fine after 5, like, we can set up the panels, physically set up the panels on Thursday, all day Thursday.
And mark the outside, so
Right, so, Friday morning, you can get here really early and set up here, because it's
the
dead
earlier
here.
the better.
But lunchtime, you can't really do anything in the village, and try and find a spot between 11 and 1. And then there's another thing, you've got to think about how busy this village, and then after 5:30,
It's
after
dinner.
is dinner, and this whole village just parked out.
And then 2:30 to 3:30 is the carpool for all the
Right.
schools.
So you have to
You
be.
have to avoid those times.
Yeah, and there's 4-hour parking, and then you'll get ticketed, so.
And that's for unloading, so you can unload in the morning, you can come back as, you know, if you're parked down at the lower library parking lot, then you can still come here and set up all day.
But you need to
But
be-
you can't be parked in any of these spots during those, high traffic times, so lunch hours, school, and
If you're outside, you can't hang until Saturday morning, right? Cause we don't have a guard.
well, the police
This is the police
station is
station.
right here,
Yeah.
so.
This is the police station.
It'll be pretty safe, is what they said, this is not necessary.
I would, if you're gonna hang your stuff Friday night,
Yeah.
you know, wrap it all up real good. But this is,
Yeah.
you're sitting in the
I'm
police
putting
station,
mine-
the
I'm putting
door
mine
to the
up.
police station is there. And that's why they're concerned, because the police cars are going back and forth all day long and all night long on that street. Cause
And
that's,
so that's one thing they said, like, under no circumstances for any amount of time can that Tibbet Street, can that be blocked in any way? Like, you cannot have any vehicles parked on that street for any amount of time, because they need to be able to go,
Yes.
and that's even like fire trucks, I think. need to-
fire trucks go the back way, but the
Okay,
police
well,
come
I don't
this
know,
way,
but-
so.
So, yeah, they have to have that.
And any questions, you can
Oh.
email.
One last thing about the parking. On this corner here, there's a spot that has a sign that says no large vehicles.
They mean it.
And they will ticket you because of the visibility. If you're turning up here and you're trying to turn, you can't see when cars are coming. But they will also ticket, we discovered this the hard way, that they will also ticket a small hatchback car because it blocks the
An
visibility.
SUV.
Even if it's a tiny, tiny hatchback car, because it blocks visibility. So
The sign
be
says.
mindful.
There's a
But
sign there.
well, the sign says big vehicles, so you might think, oh, it's a small
Like
vehicle.
Kathy's
Yeah.
had an SUV, had to move it.
It was, but it wasn't a large one.
Yeah.
But when I went out there, a gigantic tree, yeah.
So,
Okay,
I think that's.
email, I will send out emails on everything, emails on that, and can you put it back to the other one? And then,
So one quick question, if we're outside, we're setting up sometimes Friday.
you can come early Friday morning. In fact, the more tents are on there Friday, the better, because people are gonna be going by all day long.
And I will say that we need to make space for everybody else, so what I'm planning to do, we'll have the vehicle that has the tent stuff in it, we'll unload it, and then go shuttle it over to the library or the lower library parking lot, come back and set it up, so that way you open up a spot for
It's
another
pretty much
artist.
like what we've done before.
Right, so, yeah,
But you won't have the scout help until the afternoon.
Right, so you have to
what time are they coming?
pick your poison.
But I mean, can we unload in the afternoon?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you can, but you probably have better luck unloading in the morning.
And then come
for,
back?
for
and
car,
come back
for the
to
car.
set up.
It's too far away to go back and forth.
Oh,
Gotcha.
because she lives way down in Chelsea.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you'll have to kind of coordinate.
You could put your paintings in
But you
the
can.
room back there.
If most people are
Bring your
doing it,
paintings in.
oh, yeah.
There's a room back here, it's a break room, it's the little, where we've had the board meetings.
Yeah.
You could put your paintings in there in
That's
the morning, and then set
And
them
we
up.
have
You
the
still have to come
kitchenette.
back to set them up, you could do it the next day.
And we have the kitchenette we can use, so like,
Yeah.
for like lunches.
Yeah.
and
We gotta let them.
Can we,
Thinking
can
of
we
setting
just
up
make
rooms.
sure you guys stick around after the meeting, and anybody
Yes.
have additional questions?
Yes.
Yeah, come find them.
Okay.
Okay, my turn. All right, great to see everybody, good crowd. I'm Gail Hurley, Vice President of Programs, and I have to tell you, this is the most fun job I have ever had in this group. But, I will be passing the baton to somebody, so be thinking about it. Anyway, we have, several things to mention related to Rollina Ogilvy's, items up here. They're all available, these frames, these portraits. I bought at an estate sale an old portrait that I took home and used as inspiration, but you are just welcome to take these home and think, oh, I just would love the frame, you know. So they're all available, some boards and some Canson medium tint drawing paper. And then the big item is her Urania Pastelist easel. And I hope you've all seen a picture of that. You got an email with a link to it on Dick Blick. It's $1,200, big, cabinet. My husband took it out of the car by himself. I don't know how he did it, and he said, "Don't you want to keep it?" And I said, "No, I've got what I need. I don't need it." But it's a great piece. No one in the club has approached me and said they'd like to buy it for X amount of money, or like to have it if we end up not being able to sell it. But if you are interested and would pay anything for it, let us know. My goal is to say on Facebook Marketplace, $400 or best offer. So, best off, you have a best offer, just share with me. I'll post it on Facebook in a few days.
Okay, does the cabinet itself have all those little drawers that pull out?
There are some drawers that swing out and become like, I mean, I don't have a picture of it here. You can go back in the last email and look at it again, but the website will show you.
It's an awesome piece.
It is a nice piece. It's missing one metal cup can holder.
We tried to give it to a charitable source like Studio by the Tracks and whatever, and none of them had room for it.
That's right, they couldn't use it. So there's that. And then, okay, selfishly, I just wanted to share with you all these bookmarks I made for Ukraine. I mean, they're just a prayer for Ukraine, and I don't know if anybody not get one that wants one? You did one, okay. Just take these, I've got more. I'm gonna pass these out at the art show because I do that craft of the Sankey, the little wax batik on eggs. And I got the brilliant idea, I thought was brilliant, of doing watercolor versions of it. So I've got 6 or 7 little watercolors that I'm gonna show at the show. And I just really, it's been on my heart ever since I've learned this craft when I was a young seminary wife, back 40 years ago. So that's why that is. So please take one. If you want 2, feel free. Then, I think the next big announcement is our demo for today is one of my favorite people in the world, Amy Peterson. I first met Amy when she was working on the staff of Portrait Brokers of America, which became Portraits Inc. And I think I probably met her when I was first just wandering in to the little red chapel steeple arts and just drooling over these beautiful portraits. And anyway, over time, somehow I got picked up by them. And Amy, I didn't really know the heart for art that she had at that point. I should have guessed. But she has taken it to a level way past anything I've ever done and does beautiful work and is represented by Beverly McNeil in another gallery. You can read about that in her bio. But she primarily teaches at Forstall. And we have Forstall to thank for our door prizes along the wall, including the 2 $50 gift certificates. And today we're going to give them out at the end of the meeting as a reward for sticking around, the reward is just sticking around. And you'll be glad you did. 2 $50 gift certificates. And this is not up to date. It's the list of workshops and things that they have going on, but you can see Terry Strickland and different ones. If you want to look at it, it's just not up to date. And then if you have anyone that collects stickers, grandchildren, yourself, whatever, we've got some of those along somewhere, okay, along the wall, okay. So we're grateful to Forstall, we're grateful to Dick Blick. Dick Blick donated those little items up there, and they gave us a whole box full of goodies, which I'm gonna parcel out over the next few meetings. But, and also before I finish introducing Amy, I wanna remind you that we decided we needed to have a follow-up meeting to the art show. So it's a board meeting in this room that way behind us. Anybody's welcome to come and sit in the little audience section, and we're going to just review the art show, and you're welcome to come and share your opinions or speak to us beforehand. And that is May the 17th at 2 o'clock back here in this room. All right, now, I want to just read this little bit of bio about Amy, and then she'll do the program. So Amy Peterson is an artist. What? I know it's embarrassing, isn't it? Yeah. I think it just shows her heart, and I will say she is just a very generous teacher, and you'll see that. She is an artist and art teacher, lover of art, music, animals, nature, architecture, antiques, outdoors, travel, and people. She lives in Trussville near her native Birmingham. She's a wife and mother of 3 adorable children. I said adorable, and a sister and aunt to many. Her artwork has been featured in many regional and national exhibitions. Are you in that Oil Painters of America show at Beverly McNeil right now?
Oh, that's no apps there.
That's what?
That's no apps at Beverly McNeil right now.
Okay.
But I do have a piece in the Oil Painters in Colorado.
Oh, man, okay. There's a great show at Beverly McNeil, y'all should go see. She teaches weekly art classes at Forstall, leads regional workshops, and while she's worked other jobs pursuing art in between, she used to fantasize about where an art career might take her life, and now she smiles at where her life has taken her. So welcome Amy Peterson, who's going to talk to us about plein air painting.
Yeah, and it's true, that last line, it's really where my life has taken my art, because I didn't, before having kids and before raising a family, I wouldn't be painting some of the subjects I'm doing now. You know, I remember feeling limited because for a while when I started having babies, because I wasn't able to be outside every day painting, because plein air was where I kind of, you know, tops for painting was plein air. But I still get out, and I want to share some tips about that, because time is time is precious, and I don't recommend you spend time painting anything that doesn't bring you joy. Don't do it.
Is everybody here?
Why would you?
Amy, speak up, because she's recording this
Oh,
for our
okay.
meeting's sake, and
We need a
Tell me
lapel
if I can
mic.
go louder. There's also the air conditioner. I'll try to
I know,
project
you're good.
my voice over. So I want to talk a little bit about plein air painting. So I started painting when I was working for the portrait company. All the advice I was getting from the fabulous artists that I was exposed to there was paint from life, paint from life. And they weren't just talking about portraits, although that's what they did, right? Even if they relied on a photograph or 10 photographs of the subject, they did a sketch from life. Whenever possible, they traveled to that sitter and saw the structure of the face, saw the form based on the way the light and the shadows are cast on it. So they did that from life. And so they just instilled that in me, do it from life, do it from life. And in school, there was an emphasis when I was in college on painting from life. So I really took that to heart, and I didn't paint from a photograph for 7 years. Just didn't do it. I just painted from life. You don't have to be that, you know, fanatical about it. I didn't have kids at the time, and I was able to go after work and drive along the roadside and park where I felt kind of safe and saw something of interest, and just do it and paint. So, but nowadays, I sometimes sneak it with a sketchbook by the bedside table once the day is done, and I'm finally, no one needs me, and I'm lying in bed, and there I'm drawing my feet and the dog, because that's what's in front of me. It's still drawing. There's foreshortening there. There's a lot of stuff going on, but just doing it from life. And that is the great value of plein air painting. You don't have time when that sun is moving in the sky or the clouds are moving to piddle. You don't have time to pet the kitty. You brush, because if you do, the sun's not waiting for you, right? So I started out small, and I recommend doing it small. I'm going to recommend, no one told me this when I started plein air painting. I just kind of threw myself into it and started with 5x7s, and then for a while all I did was 8x10s. If you came to one of my shows, it was only 8x10s on the walls, because that's all I did. It simplified it. I only needed 8x10 frames. And it was either going to go horizontal or vertical. So it kind of, sticking with a single panel size, sort of trained my eye to think of that orientation of that's my ratio. 6x8 is really popular for plein air artists because it is just a little smaller than and it used to be kind of the one that was harder to find. You can easily find the 6x8 panels now.
And no
Just
frames.
gives you a
No
little
frames,
more.
What's that? No frames.
Oh, it was hard to find 6x8 frames. That's right.
6x8.
Yeah, the daily painters kind of started the 6x8 movement, and then the suppliers had to answer to the demand. But that's a great size to work with. But here's what I'm going to suggest. If you're thinking about painting plein air and you're a little nervous to get out there and it's just not your nature to just throw yourself into it, come what may, and not, you know, I always go out with the mindset of this is a study. I don't go out with that mindset, this is a masterpiece. I'm just learning something here. And I also whittle it down to, I'm trying to capture a moment here. So if I'm there 2 hours later, I've been there too long, right? I would suggest sketching. Sketch from life. Go outside and sketch. Get a notebook intended just for plein air sketching. Forget the paints for a while. That's very intimidating to carry all that along with you. And sketch. A lot of the areas that I find in my classes that I end up offering corrections and instruction on correcting comes down to drawing. Even though I paint very loosely, you know what you're looking at with this because it's the structure's there. The proportions are there, even if I'm taking great liberties with my edges or the application of paint, the structure's there. So drawing from life. Forget that, just get out there and 15 minutes maybe is your sketch. And this is what I would say, if you like this idea, you're like, this is doable, I can get out there maybe the same time of day every morning or whatever it is. Focus on your shapes. Focus on your shapes and your values. Because when you're just sketching, I do it lightly and then I start to double down on the darker areas and then really double down on the dark areas with a focus on values. That's it. Sketch with a focus on values. If you really want to go out there with paint, just try monochromatic plein air painting. Get a transparent color with your white surface. Why transparent? Because you can wipe away and get back to white where you want to. That also is a focus on values, and those of you who are in my classes knows how much value is king. Value is king. Because value is what gives a shape. A shape is just the outline. Form is what makes it look like a face. Form is what makes it look like a bush. And that's all about values. That's your highlight. Sketching it out. Doesn't have to be perfect. You will get better at it. You will get better and better and better at it. I cannot say it enough, because for a long time I stopped drawing. I don't have time for that. I'm just going to go out and paint. And then I had to practice what I preached in my classes. And my compositions improved dramatically from it, from doing out those little sketches, and my drawing skills. And so you become quicker. Now I'll paint from a photograph a client supplies, and I can immediately see that's distorted because it was a photograph, and I have a better idea of how to correct it because of doing it from life. So, sketching it from life, painting monochromatically from life with a transparent color, any color you wish, wiping back to the lightest lights and darkening where it goes darker. And if you're a still life, you like to do still life paintings, take your still lifes outside. It's just a kind of a baby step out there. On the porch, this painting is based off of a 5 by 5 inch little plein air piece. Do we have the, yes, we have the images up there? Where I took it out on the porch. This was during 2020, painting from home, a lot in my kitchen because I liked the way the light was. And so this little green one right there, let's go ahead and sketch it. Yeah.
Click on that one?
Yeah. So that's a 5 by 5 painting with a flat brush. You can see it's really sculptural, just going. I only got that kind of confidence after painting from life, and my plein air work didn't always look this lay it and leave it. It was much more scumble it in, build layers, erase that, But this, and this is what I'm going to demonstrate today, because my theme, and I got this to Gail a little too late, that my theme really is loosen up. And I mean that in 2 ways. Loosen up without the intimidation factor of plein air painting, and plein air painting will help you loosen up. Take off your glasses, unless it's going to give you a headache. Take off your glasses to paint. Squint when you paint. Truly, just try it. And if it gives you a headache, don't do it. Relax it a little bit. But plein air painting almost forces you to paint when you have your glasses off, especially when you're painting something from a distance. It's much easier to loosen up that barn that's far away than that barn that is crystal clear in your photograph, right? From the distance and squinting. And that's why I like the sketching, because this habit of loosely sketching things completely lends itself to looseness in brushing. I even hold the pencil further back when I sketch. And I hold my brush way back here when I paint. They go hand in hand. So this was a plein air piece, and then I thought, let's just, traditionally plein air painters would take those little studies back into the studio and paint that landscape large and maybe move the mountain and add a waterfall or whatever it was they were doing, or add the figures into the scene. But they were using their study from life. There's already a lot of loose qualities to this. So imagine when you take it even larger, and you're not working from a photo, but you're working from a little loose painting. So you're gonna get even, just different results, right? A little looser. So that was the idea of taking that still life piece, 5 by 5 inches, and going, not huge, but 12 by 12. And today, I want to, Gail, should I just, or you have
It might be easier for you to do it, since you can, let me go, and so here's this.
Oh, yeah.
So here's this, and then you can forward, if you're just going straight to the right, use the arrow button, so click on the first one you wanna go to.
Gotcha.
And
All right, we're just gonna get,
it should be in there.
here's some, so one of my favorite subjects, I used to just do landscapes. I would look for the farms, I would look for the fences, I'd look for the tree lines. And then, just like with anything, I got a little bit, you know, I want another challenge. So I started doing interior scenes, which opened up a whole new room, you know, painting inside, or painting the chairs, or the lamp, or whatever it was. And it's just a whole different, compositions are different than you find in the landscapes, and shapes are very often different and less organic than you find. But outside painting is really what grounds me, and it's been my best teacher is painting from life and outdoors. So the clothesline, we put up a clothesline, and I do it just as much because I love the way that the clothes are and the linens when they come in. Equally, they do. But look at the subject matter. Does this excite anyone as much as it does me? So I looked out the bedroom window. The kids are gonna get home on the bus that day a little while later, and I just quickly I just had to get out there. And I'm looking, watch the bus, because I can't miss it. He's a strict bus driver. He's gonna take him to school if he doesn't see an adult at home. So, but I got out there and quickly, you know, hashed this one out with the peas and everything. There it is framed. Great text. Don't look too closely. This is out the bathroom window. And here's another thought. If you like what you're seeing out the window, no, it's not exactly plein air painting. You're not surrounded by the big dome, right? But you're painting light and shadow effects. But you don't have to contend with the wind knocking your palette over. You can have shade on having shade on this as well as this. I used to think I could never paint with sunlight directly on my canvas and on the palette, but I found I can as long as they're both in the sun, right? Because imagine looking down at this in the shade, and then your eyes are having to adjust at this glaring white surface at you. Make your life easier and just keep it consistent. And I prefer shade, and I recommend shade if you're new to it. So if that often meant being under my tailgate of the car, just so truly, it was simpler. You had somewhere to sit, and you had shade, and there was the view. But from the bathroom window, why not? There was a clothesline. I'm just going about my business, and I see it, and I think, I got time to do a little one, you know.
It's already framed for you.
It was, yes. Speaking of, we're going to talk about the viewfinder too, because this is one of those things I started to do without. I'm like, okay, I know my 8x10s. I've been doing it for years. And then I started practicing again when I preach in classes. Use the viewfinder. And I'll show you, I don't know why I didn't know this. Does anyone else do this? You can, again, the dome is above you. How do you whittle it down? Well, you go like this, and if you have an 8x10, take it to the 8x10 notch, right? Right? And someone told me the other day they use a little cellophane taped on here. Because this is the tricky part, is when you're holding your little sketchbook, and I've gotten, this is almost second nature to me now, but sometimes, because of how you're cropping, if this is where I want it, sometimes I'm having to sketch it right here. And that's kind of tricky, or impossible in some situations, depending on your vision, right? So get your dry erase marker with a fine tip and outline right there in your window, right there, right? And then this is what or clear packing tape is what I was going to do if there was time today. We had a morning. But then here's your sketchbook, and this is literally what I do. If it's an 8x10, there's my 8x10. It's close enough, and then I'm usually doing this, right? And I'm getting my proportions. If it's not, I might consider it, I'm going to zoom out and do another one and just compare those two thumbnails. Which one do I like best? But with the cellophane, now you're just looking at that and almost transcribing that here. Without the vision, 39-year-old eyes, I don't know what they're gonna be like in 10. This is nice to have this little shortcut, right? So, packing tape I think would work great. Just make sure if you've got one of these things that it still allows you to adjust it, right? And the more you do that, I used to think I don't have time for that extra step. It takes me 30 seconds sometimes to quickly whip out a thumbnail sketch like this. That's what my sketches look like. They look abstract because they're basically the values of the scene. That's all of them, shapes and values. So let's get into it. That's what it turned into, the little bathroom here. Teeny, that's 4x4. It didn't take long. I love painting that clothesline. This piece got recognized. I have to say this. This is just because it's Ambler Brown, and she's such a she was the judge when this was recognized in one of the American Impressionist Society things. Ambler Brown was scrutinizing my painting. That was a thrill. This was painted over an old landscape that I wasn't happy with, and I turned it upside down, and some of the flecks of the painting showed through. Here's another little one from the clothesline again. And sometimes I do. I open the gate, or I'll close it and see what I like better. But mostly it's just as it comes out, and I don't do much. It's very impressionistic, right? And it helps being backed up from the subject, because that gate was no closer to me than the distance of the room, almost. So you really have to kind of, squint down. And you can't get caught up in details when you're that far away.
So how long would that take you?
This was a 10 by 10, about an hour. That's from plein air painting, right? Get in and get out. And there's another view of it. Every time I see it, I want to. Okay.
Do you rearrange the clothing?
I see, only once or twice have I moved one, because I thought I want that color there. But usually it's small enough that you can kind of improvise on the canvas, or later add stripes. Add stripes. That's something else. Anyone in my class I know. I'm just slightly in a stripe phase. Yeah, there's the setup on the porch. And so I had some light hitting the top of the surface. It was almost backlit and overhead, kind of. But I'm in the shade, right? I'm cool. This is summertime, in the shade, no sun hitting my surface. And when the sun moves on, this is another tip, if it has moved on, even dramatically within 30 minutes, just stop. Get the photo you want, stop. You'll be much happier with that study that stopped at 30 minutes in than one that got overworked 2 hours later. Because the sun don't chase it, don't chase the light. But this is small, so it's kind of doable. And you could imagine doing this monochromatically. And then get your photo reference. And no, it's not the same. The color doesn't look the same. You might make some color notes on it. I recommend that. Just that green, as you see it. Because then when you take your photo and you look at it on your screen or you print it out, trust the color notes you made here that you mixed and not what you're seeing in the photograph. This is just some grayscale stages, and we'll do the same thing with this demo. So I want to, where is the?
It may be out of order. Go to the top left corner, blue, top left, and then maybe you see the whole shebang.
There we go. All right, so it's another clothesline painting. Where we go? Wash day. I saw it. There it is. Okay, so I was thinking of doing this one today. This was a little, and did you see the reference? Was it there too? It's kind of fun to see how the, where'd you go? That's okay if it's not here. There's a picture of this scene out there in the, here? All right. Let's just go with it. Scroll. Okay. So, plein air piece, original one is 8 by 16. If I decide to use this to do a larger painting, I'm not just automatically going to choose the same ratio. I like the composition. I mean, I chose that. When I was eyeing it, it was with the 8:16 ratio in mind, right? So I was, I like the placement of things. But I want to talk today about how you could take that little plein air piece, rework it or recrop it, reimagine it a little bit, but just use this plein air as your reference that you're painting from. And I had, so, you know, you gotta use what you got on hand. I did not, if I had a little, as if I had, this did not just creep up on me. I had time, just got other things going on. So I found this canvas and I painted over it last night with liquid.
With liquid?
With liquid and titanium white. You know, it's still a little sticky. I'm not gonna do that to you. We're not gonna do that. Because that's gonna mess up my darks when I put them on. And I go dark to light. Rule of thumb, oil painting, dark to light. So, plein air painting will also teach you how to be really flexible. We're gonna go with a square, and you'll see it better.
So Amy, why do you add liquid to your
I did to make it dry faster. Just for that reason.
This white dries so slowly. Speeded it up.
We might need a little, support. A little panel over there. Yeah, that'd be great. Resourceful, just because, normally I'd be plein air painting with a panel, right?
Right.
Yeah, well, y'all bear with me and we'll get something done here.
What about one of those pastel panels?
As long as it's a minimum of 20 inches, it should be fine.
Would this work? Would that be better?
I don't know if she would want this or not. This was a gray pastel board, canvas like this. Would that be any easier? Or you prefer to
Oh,
do
to
that?
paint on? Okay, good question. The reason, I wanted something white or very light.
Uh-huh. But that's not.
Well, I
white.
have
And,
one.
so-
Wait, there's a white
another
one?
that's white.
What size is this?
I don't know. 11 by
11 by
14.
It's that kind of that, that gritty
Yeah,
surface. It's
yeah.
kind of nice, but you might be less inclined for it to fall off.
Yeah, let's see.
Thank you, Christy. And while she's doing that,
Do y'all have a preference? I've vetted this both ways. I look at it as a square, I look at it as a.
Watercolor plein air, I'm planning to. This is my birthday present, is a plein air watercolor easel. I don't even know how to set it up, but that's what that's about.
Yeah, let's go with this. You good with that?
I'm
And
sure,
I can just
yeah.
get paid for that.
Don't, it was a freebie, so go for it.
So, an 11 by 14. Very thirsty?
I don't know. I'm not experienced. I was just getting it to play with.
Amy, do you mind if we take photos?
No, thank you for asking. You want to pass that around? If I had my sketchbook with me, I would have, I love this pencil though. This is my favorite pencil for thumbnail sketches because it's just all in one, you know, you can get really light and you can get very dark. And if you want to wet it, you could do a little, you know, wash. So y'all see how this is? What I did was, because I had a 12 by 16, and I just, look at all that extra room we have to fill on the canvas, okay, based on the original piece. So I played around with, if I'm changing the ratio of this little seed, I don't want to get too much into this, but this is composition and this is like my, you know, this is where I live, right? Composition and values. So I think about my horizon line, and do I want to go up with it or down with it? And I would rather in this scene see more grass, personally, than more sky and the trees. So that's why I kind of shifted it up. And could you do that without using these digital tools? Yes, I didn't use these digital tools until about 2018 or 2019 when I got the iPad. It's a time saver, but it's not necessary, and I highly recommend doing it the hard way first anyway. Like, sketch it out. but this definitely saves some time. So then I just dragged my color, and you can see this is pretty much what it could look like if we just had more grass, right? And we kept our top about where it was, with the, just adding a smidge more.
There's a spot up here if somebody wants to see you.
Whatever you're painting on your iPad, can you put it up there for us to see? Or,
If we had a connection,
oh,
it's pretty much the same, except I have added a little more on the top and a little more on the bottom to accommodate this size
Okay.
canvas. Yeah.
okay.
John closed the curtains.
Yeah.
Close the curtains.
If y'all can see better that way.
I think it's good. Well, we'll see.
I think it'd be easier on my eyes.
Or, you know what, do we need those lights overhead?
Yeah.
I think we're getting a lot of glare from this.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't even need those lights really shining on the screen.
Is it gonna net? Oh, I don't know.
Screen.
All the way,
Yeah.
all the way.
I'll see if I can adjust the lights on this one.
Much better.
So the medium I'm using is called Neo,
Anybody wants to move up, they can.
Neo, it's a gambling brand. Neo. And y'all, interestingly, I have found that since I started painting with that medium, and for years I didn't paint with the medium, I will go through entire paintings without using solvent. I just wipe it well after, when I need to with my paper towel. So a lot less toxic with the process of painting with traditional oils. This surface, and I appreciate it, but it's a little different than what I normally work on. So I prefer an oil prime surface that's a little slicker, or if I had a cheaper canvas that's not an oil prime, and I encourage this to my students too, put a layer of liquid over it. Now you have a less absorbent, slicker surface to work with, more forgiving. You can scrape away easily. Best tool you'll ever messed with. Scraper. The little wipe away tool. That's the one I use the most, is the chiseled edge, and then the one with the other little. All right, but I'm gonna have to use some solvent here, I can tell, because the surface is more absorbent than I normally work with. Squinting. Yeah, I'm gonna have to use more. Just a little bit of an adjustment here. So plein air painting, I remember when I first started doing it, and people would tell me squint. And I remember reading it in the plein air magazine, and I'm like, oh, okay. I'll do it, they say to do it, but it was just kind of half-hearted, like I didn't understand the reason for it, so it was just something I remember to squint. And it wasn't until I really started painting intentionally without my glasses on, and it's not a strong prescription, but it's enough that the back of the room goes slightly softer around the edges, you know, and so landscape painting, it definitely softens things up. Because my vision is, I'm a little nearsighted. And it's funny, when I first found out I needed glasses, I remember thinking, oh my gosh, what does this mean for my painting? Go with it. It's been a blessing. Just finding the big shapes. And the big shapes in this scene, you know, the big shapes that really were my why for doing this scene, were the shadow shapes. Sometimes it's the shape of the trees, sometimes it's the shape of the sky, you know. And this one I really love the shadow shapes. And I usually go in with an extra long filbert for this stage, and it's So if I had an oil prime surface right now, it would be spreading around, you know, a little bit easier, and then I could wipe away back to it a little easier. And that's why, you know, I used to wonder why people spent more on those surfaces. And then I used one on accident and was like, this painting just was, this experience was wonderful. And I was looking at the little freebie panel from the paint out, and I was like, oh, that's why people get oil prime linen. Some people don't like it though, at all. I've come to really prefer the way the paint goes. Right now, this is just a transparent orange oxide. A lot of artists I know use a transparent red oxide. I find the orange to be a little more versatile. And that's all I've got on there right now. And I usually just go in with, right now I'm keeping, again, you know, when you go in transparent, it's so forgiving. You don't have, you know the rule of thumb, dark to light with oil painting? And there's a rule of thumb, thin to thick or lean to fat, right? Because you want the earlier layers to dry. So you keep those first layers real thin, which makes sense. If I started out thick, no little thinned out layer is it's just gonna trickle down that thick glob. It just thin to thick. And then, but you know the whole dark to light thing? It occurred to me once I started teaching that really it's dark to whites. We think of lighter colors, you know, and some of those colors do have white mixed into them. If you put white in too early, it's so hard to darken something back again. You almost have to scrape it away or you're just gonna be overworking that piece. So when you think of dark to light, think dark to white. I don't put white on this canvas until I'm really ready to put white on this canvas.
And that would include light colors with white in
white
them,
in
like
them.
Naples yellow. You would wait.
Right. And I don't even, so there are certain colors that I found, most of my colors are transparent. One of my students recognized that. I didn't know that. It was just like, well, that makes sense. Those are the ones that are, because I use titanium white. It is so strong. Its tinting power is so strong. So I use it, like I said, just, you know, when I'm ready to use it. When I first started painting plein air, I was influenced by Don Whitelaw's palette at that time, and I used a cad red medium, and I used an ultramarine blue, and I used a cad yellow medium, white, and burnt sienna. That's all. I still like burnt sienna, but I have found this, I really love this Rembrandt transparent orange oxide. Again, I find it a little more versatile and less gritty than, sometimes burnt sienna has a little grit to it. I'm gonna get into a little green gold. That's another favorite color of mine. This is a Gamblin color. And I just want to put it in for where some of the trees are gonna be in the back. So some of this can peek through. And a little bit of Viridian. So I think it's kind of funny to go from having no greens. I had no pre-mixed greens on my palette for years, and now I have two. I have Viridian and green gold. If you can count green gold as a green, it's really more of a yellow. It's azo something yellow. So even though I've gone light with the color here, before I put in, it's a transparent color. So when I mix in my darkest darks, it's not gonna phase that, you know. I'm not making mud. It's white. White is what makes the mud. Beware of the white paint. And I say this because I kind of wish we had been told that early on when we were painting, because it would have saved some work, you know? Makes the process easier.
So if you ever get into that situation, just let the paint dry and you go back over it rather than mix into it.
Yeah, I guess if you wanted to keep working on the prima, scrape it.
Yeah.
But if you were going to choose to let it dry, I try to knock off any of the ridges if it was thickly applied.
Yeah.
So that you can have a more workable surface, you know, later.
Once you see you're making mud, just
Once
scrape it back.
You know, and wiping off every time, you know, anytime you're switching colors, wiping off with a paper towel. Yeah, these will be covered. These will be nearly, you know, black or brown sometimes by the time I'm done. But again, I'm not needing to use solvent. Rarely. And I was going to say something about what you were saying about. Lost my train of thought. Keeping this really thin too. And this is, so if I'm out there in the field and the sun is moving, besides getting these big shapes in and having my little thumbnail to look at and make sure I, you know, once I like that thumbnail, then that's a good guide. And I usually stick it, you know, right here on the side. So not only am I looking at what's in front of me, but I'm glancing back at that initial little boom, that composition that I really, really liked. The next thing, besides these big shapes, is I usually go in and try to really just mark my shadows, because those are what's going to be moving, right? So in the interest of time, you know, this was one of the first things that went on there, was that shadow. There's no right or wrong order of these things, but there's certainly some that can make the job easier.
Is that Viridian and what for making that green?
Viridian and transparent orange oxide. What I'm gonna do in this little piece, I really did like how I've got some orange peeking through the green. So I'm gonna go and put a thin layer real quick on that so it'll show through, rather than if there were any gaps and it would just show a stark white canvas. Sometimes I like that, but in this case, I really like it showing some of that brown. So again, I'm working with a slightly different surface than I'm accustomed to, so it's not going on as smoothly as it would on a different kind of slicker surface. I'm not complaining.
I'm a little bit concerned about your, is it sanded?
It kind of feels like it.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned about your brushes.
Oh, I'm not worried about my brushes.
It's absorbent, and
I don't buy any expensive brushes. That's sweet of you to be thinking about that.
Ampersand makes different boards in the pastel. Is the pastel board, or one of them is pretty absorbent, and the oil kind of gets sucked in.
It's very absorbent.
Yeah, well, this is that, so.
Yeah, we've got different kinds. I think you could paint on all of them and just.
Just these.
Squinting. This kind of looks like this stage, the really, right, the blobby stage, the big shape value stage. And that's how I know I'm on the right track. This is not how I sketch. If I'm sketching something for the sake of sketching and drawing, it's a different focus. This is strictly a sketch for a painting. So it's done with focus on shapes and values, and not details. Here's what this would look like. This is what I'm going to show you. You're going to come in the back door with me to the thumbnail idea. So here's the black and white of this, right? Okay. And I'm just going to blur it for a second. This is what we see when we're squinting. Right? Okay. That is this. That, if that's interesting to you, your painting's going to be interesting to you.
I suppose you could take
Procreate.
your phone and do that on your phone, just the photograph.
You could, and I'm always, any tools that I can share, you know, I'm an open book. But there's always this disclaimer. Don't rely so heavily on those. I always gotta say it, on the tech tools. Because you can always do this. You're not always gonna have that with you, right? But that's the idea. When someone looks at this and they're like, oh, how is that your roadmap? That's it. And I like what I see there. I like the shapes. I like the way that some of the values connect. The dark values in the clothesline, they almost visually connect with the darker shadow that comes down in that V shape. And then that dark shadow is almost mirrored, the shadow on the ground is almost mirrored in the shadow that goes up the dark area in the bushes that goes up to a point. You see that? That's design. That's abstract. That's abstract concepts, right? But we look at it, we see a clothesline.
Is that your instinct? Or what?
What do you mean?
Well, the design and the composition and what you like, and it's an instinct.
I just know it's evolved, you know. I know that that's what excites me about paintings right now. But it wasn't always, for sure. Usually I just thought, well, I'm drawn to that because I love the color, you know. And then someone pointed out, well, I think you're drawn to shapes. I'm like, no, I'm drawn to color. And I'm like, maybe I'm drawn to shapes. But this is what I think about now when you stop long enough to ask yourself, why do I like it? And we don't always have to do that. If you like it and go for it. But I do, as a teacher, I start asking myself, why do I like it, so I can explain that. And then if a student is kind of, I don't know where this is going now. Like, what was your initial, right? And then let everything else support it. So I guess I start thinking right now, this design aspect is where I am right now. I don't know if it's instinct. I don't know if it's a mix of instinct and just experience, right? I don't know, but I know it's what is exciting to me right now. So let's unblur that. That app is Procreate, and it's just $10. And it's a neat little time saver. I don't have those digital tools. I don't have a NoCan app. I don't have any of those. I really I'm pretty old school about, traditional about doing the work, you know.
Oh, the bird that got into the room.
Those sound effects, it felt like it was playing there.
Yes, that's right. Y'all know what plain or plein means in French? Open means full or open, out in the full air, out in the open air. When I was a kid with a French family, I was learning French, and they said, "Are you finished eating in French?" And I said, "No, merci. Yes, we je suis plein." And they went, "Oh, that meant you're pregnant." You're full. Sorry, I mean, that's just comedic relief. Give her time to paint.
I'm like an etymology nerd, so I love that.
Yeah. And French say plein, and Americans that don't know French say plain, and that's okay. But I like plein. Like Glenn.
Let's say it together.
Plein air. En plein air. En plein air.
No, I do love that. So, I feel like you could go either. I think that when I started this scene from life, I probably came in with that very neutral, that sepia color, to do my little block in. Because then, once you have your little clothes blocked out, it's easier to kind of use your darks to carve around them. So, I'm just going to scratch out the approximate place of these shirts.
Yes. This floor is hard.
There are more chairs up here if anybody wants to.
There's a good one right here.
How many people are your classes full? They're full, are you gonna have another one? So if we all decided that we wanted to shine up, would you have another day?
We're talking about adding a Thursday in September. And that's gonna be a figure drawing class. Have you ever done figure drawing?
Yeah.
That was one, when I look back at my college years, that was the one that, oh my gosh. Cause you can draw a tree, no one knows Tree doesn't look like that. But you start getting into buildings, architecture, people, right off the bat, if you know, you're gonna know if something's off. So it will hold you to a different standard. And I say this even with the people that have the intention of painting loosely. Let it be grounded in something real. If you're gonna be painting anywhere on the spectrum of realism to impressionism, no matter how many of the rules you wanna break, you know?
Buildings are.
There's a reason that all those schools start with the drawing from life and drawing from the skulls and drawing from, you know, the live models. So figure drawing, that's what I wanna do, is on Thursdays. And I think what we're gonna do is do it like a block class. So like my Wednesday classes right now, you sign up by the month. And the people that are in there have the priority for the next month, and they can, you know, stay like that. And then when a spot opens up, they go to the wait list. The 4-star will call someone on the wait list. So,
In workshops, you do workshops once in a while.
yeah,
If we can't fit in the day class.
doing a pet portrait workshop October 1st. That's why it's been updated since that flyer that Gail had the flyer, and they did change that. And this is a really fun one. Post-impressionistic interiors and figures. That's June, the last weekend of June.
This June?
Super fun. Any level, that's the best part. You don't, this is not like intermediate to advanced, because we're gonna take,
Was that oil painting?
or acrylic. Yeah.
And this is this June, or you?
Yeah. Would someone look it up?
Impressionistic interiors.
I'll pull it
and-
up, because we've changed the date a couple times, so I wanna make sure I'm saying it the right date.
Maybe it's on 4-star's website.
It'd be there, and it will be on mine and theirs, yes. But that's a really fun one, that's different. It's a kind of a creatively freeing workshop. So very different, less of an academic approach, except that you will leave that really knowing post-impressionism. And you will work your own either photo references or use memory for the interior spaces. And I had some people put people in there by memory or by photograph, like a deceased loved one, you know, could have gone into the kitchen, but they remember it from the grandmother's kitchen, that sort of thing. Or a dog, they brought a photo of a dog, and we worked that into the scene with very impressionistic, post-impressionistic elements, you know. So Edward Vuillard, Pierre Bonnard, really fun stuff. It's very different, but I think that it plays so well into impressionism as well. You know, it's really what it came after impressionism. And so where impressionism, the way I typically paint, is more focused on the effects of light and atmosphere, on color and form. It's a visual thing. Post-impressionism brought a little more of a subjective emotional response to the subject, not just the visual light and color. It's a little more like, you know, color for symbolism, or the object for symbolism, or for the expression of the piece, less than just visual, you know, like impressionism.
That's a picture of the poster of her post-impressionist workshops. You can see the colors. It's on the 4-star website.
Is it the one with the boy and the dog? Yeah, that's exactly it. Stripes. See those stripes? If you're wondering how to handle an area of your painting, we're gonna consider stripes. And y'all, it's not just stripes for value. You can ask people in my class. I love the stripes because, especially if they're kind of close together, it's a value thing. It's not just a pattern thing. You have changed the value of that shape as soon as you put stripes in. You introduced a pattern and a value change, and so we use that to function into the painting. Okay. It's fun. And that workshop, what are the dates on that one?
July 29th and 30th. July 29th.
July, not June, okay. Last weekend in July.
And then the pet portrait
Schedule
one
any vacations.
is September 10th. Timeless pet portraits.
October 1st. You still haven't changed it? Okay,
October 1st.
September 10th, probably, a lot of you probably know, that's our art walk, and that is why we changed it. So it'll be around Spark Park, October first.
There's always something.
There's always something. Shoot, in October and April, always something.
What blue is that, Amy?
This is a little ultramarine, a little viridian, and a little pyro red. Alright, so pyro red and ultramarine will give you purple, pyro red and viridian will give you purple. Viridian is so blue, it is such a blue green, that it gives you a lovely gray and purple. That's less obviously blue. That's why that's one of the reasons I love viridian. It is so cool, I use it in place of blue sometimes. Yeah. Right?
Yes.
Just white,
Can you write
a
that
white
down?
highlight that's cool, a cool white, she's laughing, she knows, a cool highlight that's not obviously blue, but it's just cool, viridian. A touch of it in your titanium white will cool that off without bluing it up.
And this is for sure on the video, right? Where's Christie?
Yeah, yeah, it is.
We're getting off topic, but this is, it's all related, isn't it? I love color. I mix my colors, right? So all my colors, starting with the hues. I had the red, I had the yellow, I had the blue. You're going to learn to color mix, right?
Green one out of the two is never right.
And I almost anything out of the two was never right? Yeah.
I'm thinking, Amy, if you wouldn't mind, I might call out the door prize winners and people can quietly go up and grab something, but interrupt me when you say something. Is that okay?
And I will not be offended. You'll leave.
I
I can't even see
ticket
if you're
yet.
leaving. I won't be offended. Even if you say bye, I'm leaving. There's no offense here. We've all got lives. I get it.
They're sticking around really well, yeah. This is the prize.
Amy, is
They're
pyrrole red,
sticking
is that
around.
similar to cat?
Could you give us the colors on your palette?
Yeah. So my red is pyro red. It's a little different than CAD, depending on the brand, okay? It's PY25, PR, R for red, PR254. Pyro, I use CAD forever. I used CAD for years. Pyro's more versatile than CAD.
And which brand do you like?
The cheapest brand, M Graham is the cheaper brand, but Winsor Newton makes it. But you know how they go, they call them by different names. But Pyro Red is more versatile than a CAD red. You can more easily go orange with it and purple. You can go on either spectrum of the red than CAD. It's also, the one I use is transparent or semi, or it's nearly transparent, which makes it more versatile than CAD. CAD is not transparent.
Did everybody sign in? Because that's the way you get a number, is your sign-in number.
You know,
how do you need to be added?
This is Pyro Red. Pyro Red. It's almost like, it's a Ferrari red. It's used for Ferraris. There's almost orange in it, but it's transparent. It is truly, this is one of my scientist student. She looked all this stuff up. It's used in Ferraris. It's Ferrari red. As opposed to like a deeper red like CAD, right? CAD has a, yeah. It's more versatile, that's why. I like colors that are gonna do some heavy lifting.
You don't need a ticket or anything. I'll just call the number and they'll say that's, Kevin Harris or whoever. The arbitrator. Be sure to thank Alabama Art and Forstall anytime y'all go down there. The door prizes to choose from are along the wall over there. Those are all from Dick Blick. I don't know that Dick Blick would need to know your thank you, but you could engage you with them. But do we have a number? Because that's what I'm waiting on. A total number of.
Right now, 31.
How many?
31 now.
31. Great.
I think Carolyn's coming. I think it's 32.
Okay, I'll say 32. She can be 32.
Carolyn, did you sign in?
The first winner of the $50 gift certificate is number 16. Who would that be?
That is Susan Johnson.
Here we go.
Awesome.
Isn't that fun? The next number is 17. That's random, I guess. 17. Who's that?
Melanie O'Keefe.
Oh, I did. You're kidding. Okay, now, there are, I don't know how many pieces are over there. It doesn't matter. We've got titanium acrylic, big, tube, and 3 basic good quality, colored pencils, some sketch pencils, some darling little moleskin, notebooks, and just a few other random things. So just go up promptly, and whoever gets to it first can get it. I'll try to face it. Do you need to say anything?
I just was thinking, how'd you know?
I don't want to
Saw
dominate.
the gears turning. I wanted to comment about the whole classes. You know, I say it almost blasé, like, yeah, my class is full, there's a wait list. Y'all, let me tell you how much. This, even 2 years ago, that was not the case. I just started teaching at Forstall in 2019. I had 3 regulars, and we had a blast. We really got to know each other over the year. And Philip kept saying, you know, it'll fill up. And, but to say it, so when someone says it, and as a matter of fact, I'm like, yes, it is, it's full with a wait list. I don't take that for granted 1 second. I love teaching. I love it. I love teaching before I started teaching. I taught a little bit before the kids were born, but never a regular class like this. And I absolutely, we have a good time in there, don't we?
Who's in her class or has taken her class? Yeah.
And it's fabulous.
Yeah. Okay. All right, let's do another one. We're gonna do several right in a row. Generate number 1.
Kathy.
Let's go pick out something.
But how many people, I'm sorry,
Uh-huh.
how many people are in a class, in a small group class like that? Because you get so much out of so much of our painting time can be alone. When you're in a small group like that, I learn absolutely 100% as much from everyone in the class and the stuff that comes up in the class than they learn from me. No doubt about it.
I don't think that's accurate.
No doubt about it. Because we do a lot of problem solving, don't we? Yes, we do. And so it stretches you.
Amy, you, at least during COVID, we had advertised for you that you did one-on-one classes. Are you still able to do that, or are you too busy?
Yes, it kind of depends on the week. Right? So if someone says, can I book a private lesson, I will absolutely try to work with someone's schedule, but there are some times where I'm like, whether it's school, it's extra, and a couple other commitments. But yes, the short answer is yes. There's not a wait list for it. It's just one-on-one. We take it when our schedules can, and we'll see. And
At your house?
If it's plein air, I've done it and if I know the person, or if it's a friend of a friend, I've done it at my house. I'm not just gonna let anyone come, you know what I mean? Like, you just gotta be careful. But very often we'll meet at Forstall when they have the mezzanine free. And I have come to other people's houses. It just kind of depended on the scenario.
Okay,
and
let's figure out how to say that in the newsletter.
So, it's really, yes, I do private lessons. What is it, $75 an hour, and a minimum of 2 hours. Because shoot, what are you going to get done in an hour? Nothing. And then you hit 3 hours and you both hit the wall, and you're like, we got to see each other another time.
Could you share that time with a friend?
Oh yeah, right. Yes,
That's a mini class. It's a way to get around the.
Next door prize winner, you ready? Is number 13. Did I call that out yet?
Catherine Friend.
Catherine Friend, you're right there, ready to go. The next one is 2.
You won.
So cool. Okay, let me grab something real quick. I think I know what I want.
How are you doing that on your phone?
It's a randomizer. It just picks a random number. It's an app.
So fun. Oh, lucky. Generate number 31. Who just signed in? Who is 31?
Janet. I don't need anything. I don't know.
Well, if you don't, you may pass the baton, but I'm not that selfless. Next one is number 10.
Ann Stone.
Ann, go ahead. And next,
This is a shed in our backyard that may not see many more days, but I just love painting this thing. I know. It's it's a crap shed now. It really is. But it's the inside of it, not the vinyl siding on the outside, but the inside was built in 37 like the house. And shiplap, you know, and so we will save what we can. It's just in an awkward position in the lot, but
Awesome, I love it. Number 28.
I told Matt, I said, sometimes if we ever did work on the house or added a room on the house, I said, I don't want to move this clothesline. I said,
Do we have a
make
28?
a house renovation. Okay. We can move the clothesline.
We have a few more things.
I love the location.
Number 20.
That's me.
Yeah.
It is.
You will have preserved it anyway.
That is true.
Is it 20? Susie?
I'm trying to get up.
It's not easy. Number 4.
Here, so getting kind of seeing the values develop. Now, if this is all I could have done from light, not so bad. My shadows are there. I can paint the light green grass around it. If I'm, you know, in plein air, so you just, you know, maybe it was a color note like this.
Yeah.
And then, but I gotta go inside for whatever reason, you know, it's about to rain or something like that. It would be ideal to get some done from life on the clothes because they were backlit, and that's one of the reasons I love this little scene. But the backlight only really works, the punch when behind it is darker, right? And that's what we get here. Okay.
Did we get number 4?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Number 30. Did we ever call 30?
Yeah, and now Kathy, can't read the name.
Right?
Kathy Prince,
Prince, yes.
who just
Who
left.
just signed
Oh, did
in?
she leave? Oh, boo.
There she is.
Hey, come get your door prize.
You won! She heard her.
That's Neo-Megalith or whatever.
Yeah. I know, we call it Neo. It does make it drive faster. That's not the purpose of it.
I have, but I don't put my commission prices on the website, because it changes.
I've had some students say, it's just too fast for me.
I prefer that.
What is your?
I think on my website's really prints that are available from work I've already done, so.
Who does your printing?
I tend to be a fast painter, so
I have a wide format.
usually not,
Nice.
not an,
See, that's
Printer, but I
usually don't mind using it.
you have a great printer.
Oh, yeah, somebody who printed.
Still using that extra long filbert right now.
Architecture drawings.
I've got so a scanner.
Closer?
And then, y'all, this is not just the only trick,
I've
the
zoomed
time
in.
saver. I'm not having to switch a bunch of brushes and wash them out. I've been using one brush and I wipe it well every time. I've used no solvent except in the beginning when I was getting that wash across the canvas. And even now, like on a slicker canvas, I don't even do that. Just wiping it. And then if you're loading enough paint on the brush, that's the other trick, because I'm not, you know, I've been switching colors a good bit. But as long as you're wiping it enough and getting enough on that brush, and you're not petting the kitty. Unless you're in an area where you're scumbling on, you know, intentionally. Because then you'll start to make mud. But keeping this clean gives me the clean color.
Susan, 24.
What?
Number 24.
Sorry.
She.
But in the interest of time with plein air painting, especially if it's about a shadow, and that's really your, you know, what drew you to the scene, get that shadow kind of notched out first, maybe in a sepia color or a really forgiving color, you know, that's not going to taint your other colors. That's why those sepia ones are so great for that, you know, in landscape painting. Because you can, if you absolutely have to pack up and leave because the light changed or anything like that, you can have a little photo reference if you've got it. You can have your initial little thumbnail sketch, and then you've got your shadows pretty much marked out. When I moved to New Mexico, I remember there was a wonderful plein air group out there called the PAP and Plein Air Painters of New Mexico, and I remember the first critique I went to. And one of their critiques on my pieces was that my shadows were too dark. Now, I'm not a big egomaniac, but I remember just thinking, they're not, you know, like in my head. They absolutely were. I just wasn't seeing it. And I was painting all my shadows pretty dark. If you're painting from photographs, you're painting your shadows too dark. I can almost guarantee it, unless you have adjusted that photo or you're adjusting your shadows. But this was even from life. But I was out in New Mexico.
Oh, it's bright out there.
Yeah. You come from the humid air and the diffused light, and you paint water in the air in Alabama. You go out there and low humidity, and everything was so crisp, and even the edges of shadows were crisper. And so my eyes were adjusting to these sandstone, bright colors reflecting light, and then by contrast, the shadows look really dark. But the longer you stared at it and squint, you know, and let your eyes adjust, and sure enough, that was a turning point for me. I started paying close attention to where is the light in my shadow.
In the shadow.
Areas like this, you really want to kind of recede and go dark. But these shadows, if they go too dark, there's not light in your shadow. And there's a whole lot of light in these. These are just one little shirt casting a shadow on the ground, and everything around it is bright. There's a lot of light in that shadow.
Six.
Ruby.
We're down at the end. I think it's just a little book and the 2 sets of colored pencils, which with the primaries, you know, you can layer and get more colors on that. And then the last one is number 3.
Linda Goldstein.
You get some colored pencils. My grandson would like those.
How old's your grandson?
I have a 4, a 2, and a 0. Like a 1 month.
Where were you in New Mexico?
We lived in Tijeras, it means scissors, and it's right off of, we were east of Albuquerque, so we were on the cooler side of the mountains. And we were about 45 minutes from Santa Fe. We didn't have to go through Albuquerque to get to Santa Fe. You know,
The
to go up
quiet
that.
side.
So it was a little paradise. It really was.
So far from family and friends though.
It was, and I'm glad we're back, but I still, we actually might drive out there. I'm talking to Matt about driving out there with the kids, to visit my soul sister out there who I met, over dog rescues, and, she has rescued donkeys, and she's got a lot of land out there, and we might just take a road trip. Should we take a train, you know?
How long were you out there?
We were out there for not 2 years. Yeah. I saw Janet at least once.
At least once or
during your
twice had
visit there. It
lunch.
might have been the summer.
And went to
tail
you
end.
you dived into the art scene so fast, got so involved, and got into some great galleries, and at the reception, was at the reception? It's a great place, but it's pretty remote out there.
I did dive into it. I didn't have kids then. We just got married and we moved out there, and so I started teaching yoga and got into a couple galleries and joined that planner group, which was very prolific. So I was
It's
exposed
definitely
to
an
painting
artist
spots
mecca.
because of that group, really.
If you can stand the altitude at living at 7,000 feet.
Ooh, I came back from living at 7,000 feet, and I'm like, I could just run 20 miles here, because you can breathe, your lungs have adjusted to, you know, it's interesting how that happens, because at first you're winded.
Oh,
You're just
God.
walking flat, and you're winded because you're at 7,000 feet. But it's beautiful out there. It's a different world. But I don't know. There's a cowgirl in me that wants to be out there on a ranch. We came back because we didn't move out there for jobs, and Matt was not getting the hours he needed, and then he had chosen at that time to pursue firefighting, so he was going through certification as a paramedic, did not get into, so competitive, didn't get into any of the stations out there, had put in bids for here, I say bid, that's probably not the right term, but through the personnel board, and it was more promising to get the job here, and meanwhile, we were just funds were running out, we had a baby. We're like, I guess we're moving back to Alabama. I kept art in a couple galleries out there for a little while, and then shipped some, but it's not the same. You're not painting Alabama scenes to ship them to Mexico, you know.
People have asked me why don't I paint Santa Fe themes?
Yeah.
Nobody here buys things from Santa Fe. Beautiful paintings, but it's like, what are they gonna put them in their house?
Right, it's a pretty small market here for that. I think I sold some to people who were moving there.
So maybe people from there.
Or from there, right.
Families from there, they have some babies.
There were a few things out there, like the church you did, the little churchyard where it was kind of nondescript, you could do cafes.
Yeah.
So you have to search for things in different areas that look like maybe Alabamians or Southerners would buy.
Anywhere, right.
Amy, do you prefer that palette set up, the plein air box that you're using? I've seen
Prefer
all
it
different,
to
to any of the, like some would look like cases, some look like.
Yeah, I've used a pochade box.
Yes.
That opens up, and I like that one. This one's a little more durable than my old pochade box. I actually got that from a bartering with an artist in New Mexico. It was my first little wooden open M box. And I like it. I use it from time to time. But I don't care for the French easels that are so big, you know, and a lot of the newer models that you see out with titanium and lightweight stuff have gotten away from that big bulky.
I love that.
This is very practical. It's not as light as some of the others. It's not magnetic like some of the fancy models are. It gets the job done.
Yeah.
And I was not ready to spend, you know, a bunch of money on one that I
What is
wasn't
that
sure
called,
about.
that type?
Okay, this is a Strata.
Oh, a Strata.
Mini. They're mini.
Oh, and you add it.
And then you add that, and you can get all other kinds of gadgets and attachments. And but the easel that it comes with, it was wonderful. It's really great easel. I didn't get all the fixings, you know.
Yeah. Well,
Can you tell us how much?
Do you see my bag? I kind of like, I have painted easels with duct tape for years. I don't need the fancy stuff. And you don't really need the fancy stuff to make good paintings, you know. But this one, if you drop it, it's probably going to break whatever it lands on. It's very durable.
I'm sorry, did you say how much it costs?
Strata Mini with the easel and everything is around $250 maybe when I got it 3 years ago. Strata. S-T, Strata.
They have a great Facebook page if you're on Facebook.
Is it on the back?
yeah.
So that's the Strata Mini. And I don't paint large plein air pieces. So when I'm painting a large painting, it's usually indoors, and I just use a different easel. You know, and again, I don't even have a fancy indoor easel. I put a big canvas on the car table. I have stacked bricks to paint. The biggest painting I've ever done was stacked on bricks. You know, check over the level. You're good.
I think mine on the kitchen cover. Yes. We're gonna send out an email of the map tonight. And we just did
The flat brush is the other brush I use the most plein air painting. And that's really for when you're gonna lay that brush stroke and kind of commit.
I'm impressed. Make it work.
You gotta, you know, yeah.
Like it lends itself to, you know, how you just may do. You don't have to have the thing.
You know, I was doing a demo of a cat. I brought a cat portrait in, and this was short supply, right? 2021, things were still, it was hard to find what was needed. So I went to Forstall and asked for, like the ampersand, museum quality to add a little to it. And all they had was value series. All they had was the value series. I'm like, okay, I can work with value series.
that stuff is so slick.
Oh, yeah.
That I would have never recommended it to a beginner. It was really difficult to work. I had to finesse the way I was applying the work. Like I had to think more about how I was applying the work than color mixing or anything else. So the surface really does matter. And I didn't used to think so. I would just buy the cheap, whatever was on sale at Hobby Lobby and hit the road to paint with the plein air group. And there were times I'd whip something, try to paint, and I'm like, this is just not good. You know, and it was probably the cheap surface that was so absorbent that nothing was, it was just going and disappearing no matter what I did. And I didn't know how much surface there was.
I'm just, yeah, I'll talk to you.
Yeah, this surface, once I get at least a layer of paint on there, I can go a little more.
Kind of interesting. I mean, you could choose that, but it's.
You're right. It's making me change a little bit. Well, not the colors I'm using right now, because they're not
So any advice for this?
Absolutely, but it's just not.
It's quick.
It looks like a mess.
And if you can even, I mean, I always say do it for one, you know, but if you're doing it for photo, blur the way we paint.
Yeah.
Paint from a blurred resin. You'll have to, especially if your tendency is to copy what we're saying, copy something else.
Between the left and right.
I mean, that's about as simple as you
Well, my dad was a photographer. I grew up painting photographs. So I feel very comfortable doing that, but I can see what you're saying in terms of. I just, that's my biggest challenge is listening in. And when I do, I fail.
Take with your non-dominant. And just change it. Read your reference up to it.
Yeah, I've done that before. So I look here, what you could show what I'm trying to picture.
Right.
Looking at something else.
So upside down, backwards, not on that hand, and anything to kind of just get you out of your, well, I would want to. If the habit is
Maybe it's fine. I think that's me.
Yeah.
I think it's so much longer than.
My husband will say, what are you doing? I said, I'm pushing paint, pushing it around, not really. I almost just.
But if you time yourself, you're much more intentional with that. That's why those limited brush strokes things are so effective.
Yeah.
Like, make this one count. Yeah.
Yeah, I've never done that.
And just with one brush. So try a limited brush stroke, painting 100 strokes to do this tiny little thing. And you'll learn how to make it. That's what I guess more by doing that. Because I used to be a little more arbitrary. And now it's like, no, this is the job. And those are the ones.
Can I get your thing? Your tag.
There we go.
Thank you.
I know.
I'm real bad about
I don't know what people expect, but I hope people got selection.
Oh, I see. More than we expected, actually. No, I mean in terms of so much, because you're so open.
She's always like, she was so
Someone told me in a post, like, don't share all your secrets. I'm like, what are you talking about? Just because you say everything you know, doesn't mean someone's gonna go and like plagiarize you. And they're only gonna take what applies to them anyway.
And nobody's telling you how to do what you do. It's really tough.
You know,
You could tell us everything. And even lead us along.
yeah, everyone's gonna do differently anyway.
Then I was gonna try to put under the tracing something I can, but it wouldn't show me, so I don't know how to.
I'm only gonna have to.
Because I can't draw it.
Saturday morning.
I haven't tried to read it, I should.
just also blank.
I wish I had known about this scraper tool early on when I started painting. I use it, I mean, nearly every painting I work on. Sometimes it's to scrape away a mistake, but sometimes it's very intentional because I want to make the layer underneath it show through, or do the blade of grass, or to test out the placement of the fence posts before you add paint on. Right? Before you ever get close to adding mud, mixing more mud, just scrape out where you're going to test that object to be. Right? I know it sounds obvious, but it wasn't obvious to me when I was first painting, because then I would just put the fence post in and think it's in the wrong place now, you know, and then I would try to cover it up. Just to test it out, right? Test out placement. And Q-tips are fine. This just gives you a little cleaner scratch. You can really, and because it's rubber, you can,
Just a rubber tip.
it gives you more control than like a credit card will, which is just kind of big and bulky if you're using a credit card. And sharp and plastic, whereas this has a little more give because
The edges are softer.
You might even be able to get them out.
So do you wipe your brush off all the time, right?
when I'm painting colors, yes.
And is that just a fabric or is
Paper
it
towel.
paper towel?
Paper towel.